We're now going to talk about some of the motivators of why people consider business ownership. There's going to be a lot of them that you're going to hear. You've got to figure out which ones are important to you. And there might be things that aren't even talked about today that are important to you. This is just to get your thoughts going about what's important. When we think about why business ownership, after working with hundreds of families, one of the things that we know is that success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, doesn't it? Whenever I conduct these seminars, I always tell people that these are two of the most important slides of the entire presentation. If you want to walk away with one thing from this seminar, it would be this. You need to understand what is in it for you as a business owner. What business and personal challenges are you trying to resolve that can only be accomplished through business ownership? You'll have your own reasons, and it's really important to figure out what those reasons are. So, for consideration, here are some of the things that we see from our clients. For some people, it's about money, creating a predictable income. They're willing to make a short-term sacrifice to build the business so that they can have a long-term, consistent income. We'll talk about this later. Some of our clients want to be in full control. Having the freedom and autonomy to make the decisions, the responsibility that goes with that, and getting the benefits and the rewards as a result of making those decisions. For some people, it's about job security. Some of our past clients have bought businesses that are recession resistant and that can't be offshored. Things like hair care. Some of our clients want to build a team so that the business is not solely reliant upon them. As the business matures, the owner enjoys far more lifestyle flexibility as the team takes on more and more responsibility. For some of our past clients, financial security is not just a predictable income stream, it's also about scaling and building a multi-unit empire. For some people, it's about fulfillment and making meaningful difference in their work that's more important. Examples are elder care or tutoring satisfy that desire. Engagement, fulfillment, a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment regarding what they're doing and regaining that sense of purpose. The bottom line here is that there's so many different factors, and the only ones that are relevant are the ones that are important to you. As you work through the process of pain and gain, some of the people that you share that exercise with might look at that and ask you, is that really important to you? Well, they might be asking because it's not important to them, but you have to square off with things. You have to make sure by going through this that it's really important to you, and you have to get really honest with yourself as you're doing that. As we've worked with our clients over the last few years, there are a few major factors that seem to keep on coming up as the primary motivators for those people seeking self-employment and franchise ownership today. The first one is that they are not comfortable with the instability of the job market. They're uncomfortable with the decisions that are being made and those decisions that they don't have any say in or control over. And they want to stop the gig economy. The gig economy roles, these are contract roles, are not typically tenured. Instead, they're just that. They're gigs. They're short-term, 6 months to 2 years, and people are questioning whether they want to be on that path for the remainder of their career. The start, stop, search for a job, stop, start, pause. So that's part of that instability of the job market. And for some people, these gigs are coming up because they have no more control over the transitions that are coming up. They know they're coming, but they don't know from where or when. This is a major theme. They're saying, I want to stop this cycle of intermittence. I want to stop this cycle of start, stop, and I want to get some control and stability, and I want to do that through business ownership. The second thing we hear from a lot of people is around the subject of life balance. People aren't necessarily looking for easier pathways in their career, but what they are saying is they want more control over the decisions they make through the day as to what they're going to be doing and when. We've worked with clients at very senior executive levels in the financial service industry. One of them said this to us: I get to the end of the day and at 5 p.m. I know my work is done. I could have left the office, but the optics wouldn't have been good. The expectation was that they needed to be visible for their staff. Up, down, side politics. That was the only reason that person was staying at the workplace longer, and it was really frustrating him. The third theme that we hear from a lot of people is, do I still want to keep on doing what I've always done? That kind of fits into the fulfillment side of things. One example was one of our telecom executive clients who told us that I've been doing the same thing for over 21 years. I don't know what, that's the only thing I want to have as my legacy, and what do I leave as a mark on my life? I want something different. One of the things we'll be touching on today is that franchising is one of those few opportunities where you get an opportunity to do something completely different because it doesn't rely on specific industry skills. Instead, it does rely on transferable, leverageable skills that you can apply in different arenas or different environments. Over 80% of our clients have bought businesses in franchising where they've had no experience whatsoever, but they did rely on the franchisor's systems and processes, the coaching and the training, and they were able to apply their capabilities in conjunction with the franchisors in order to create successful businesses. Business ownership from scratch, on the other hand, is heavily resistant on industry experience because you've got to create everything from scratch, and it takes a deep knowledge of that industry in order to create a good business from scratch. There's one additional factor that I think it's important to address right now. While it doesn't apply to our younger clients, it does apply to people that are in their late 40s and 50s, and that's the subject of retirement. As we've already identified, the traditional path to retirement was work through your career, then stop at age 65 and retire. The current reality in Canada is that the average male lives to the age of 81 and the average female lives to the age of 85. We're living a lot longer, and we have to make sure our financial resources can sustain us throughout our entire retirement years. Interestingly though, what we're hearing from our clients who are looking at retirement as part of their strategy, it's not as much about financial sustainability as it is about intellectual engagement. We have clients who are looking at it and saying, I want to have the choice of being able to be as intellectually engaged as I want or have as much freedom as I want while my business sustains that. So looking at business ownership from a retirement perspective, that's part of a strategy you might want to be considering. Let's look at a couple of interesting trends when it relates to aging and retirement. Ipsos Reid told us that in 2008, 51% of people age 66 were fully retired, while only 16% were working full-time. In 2012, they told us that only 27% of people age 66 were retired, while 26% were working full-time. That's a big jump in just 4 years. Now we look at the Canadian 2016 census, the number of people working full-time at age 66 was 30%, so it continues to increase. Well, let's look at the reasons behind the statistics of this very uniquely increasing trend. 25% of people say, I enjoy my job or my career, I don't want to stop. 21% say, I want to stay mentally active. That's that intellectual engagement element. 16% say, I need to earn enough money to live well. 13% of people are saying, I don't believe government pension benefits will be enough to live on. And 10% are saying, I need enough money to pay basic living expenses. And the trend continues to climb. According to Statistics Canada and the Globe and Mail in January of 2019, over 53% of all senior men report working in 2019 and almost 23% of those being full-time. And in that same article, over 39% of women report working. This is twice the level of what it was in 1995. So there's a lot of reasons besides money. Think about it this way. If the odds are that you're going to live past the age of 80, that's 15 years past the age of 65, what do you want to be doing with a quarter of your adult life? We've placed clients in their late 50s and in their 60s who are saying, I want to stay intellectually engaged, I want to keep my brain active for as long as I can. A number of the people I've talked with who have come back to me saying, I'm thinking about business ownership again, have tried retirement. They did it for 6 months or 2 years, and they got to a point of saying, yeah, this is interesting, but I still want to do something. With the right franchise business, you can have lifestyle choices through retirement while also staying intellectually engaged enough. There are a number of options, and you want to figure out what your choices are and what the right path is. When you're looking at your long-term goals and your retirement components of those long-term goals, figuring this out is really important because the business that you ultimately buy will need to deliver on these long-term goals. And the reality is there are a number of businesses and franchises that simply cannot. One of the most common questions I get is who's suited to franchise ownership? A lot of people initially think, not me. They're thinking, I don't have the right skills, I don't have the financial resources, or they're thinking, it's just not for them. Well, let's think about this a little bit differently. Business owners have the same skills that employed people do. They've just figured out how to use those resources more effectively and serve themselves better. There's nothing special about the skills of business owners. Some people think they come from this magical cast of people. That's simply not correct. Where do you think business owners come from by way of background? I would suggest to you that if you went out and talked to 10 different entrepreneurs and asked them the question, what did you do before you owned your business? What do you think the answer would be? Right, exactly. I used to work somewhere for someone in a company. So those same skills that were once being used in an employed space are now being used in a self-employed space. So back to the question, who's suited to franchise ownership? Well, candidly, I think that's the wrong question. The better question to ask is which types of businesses am I best suited to? Now that we've explored why franchise ownership and business ownership, in the next segment we'll explore the 3 different options that you have in terms of the ways of going into business.